Hey guys, tonight we're going on a different kind of journey. Not into the realm of the supernatural, but deep into the unforgiving past. So, dim the lights. Maybe light a flickering candle if you dare. Or just let the soft glow of your screen be your guide. Find a comfortable spot, wrap yourself in a warm blanket, and let the outside world fade away. Let's ease into tonight's journey together, and if you are feeling up to it, let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from, and what time it is for you. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tonight, we're diving into a time when survival wasn't a luxury, but a brutal daily battle. We're stepping back all the way to the Middle Ages, into the heart of the deadliest winters, to uncover the 100 brutal ways medieval peasants clung to life when the world turned to ice and shadow. It is a tale of resilience, of hardship, and of the sheer, stubborn will to see another spring. Close your eyes and let's begin. You've woken up, not to the gentle hum of a modern heating system, but to the chilling bite of the first deep autumn frost. It's the year 1347, let's say, and the air inside your small, one-room hut feels like a ghost's whisper, thin and sharp, hinting at the long, dark months ahead. This isn't just a cold snap. This is the prelude to winter, a season that, for you, a medieval peasant, is less about festive cheer and more about a desperate drawn-out endurance test. Your home, this humble dwelling of yours, is your primary defense, your only fortress against the elements, and before the heavy snows descend, it needs to be transformed. It needs to become a sealed survival capsule, a tiny earthy cocoon against the encroaching death. The walls of your hut are mostly wattle and Daub suet, a skeletal framework of interwoven branches and twigs plastered with a thick earthy mixture. But autumn winds, even now, find their way through countless tiny cracks, whispering icy secrets into your living space. So, the first, most critical task is to seal it all. You gather your materials, rich, dark earth from the fields, handfuls of straw, coarse and dry, and the most pungent yet valuable ingredient 20 animal dung. Cow dung, pig dung, whatever you can collect. It's not just a filler, it's a binder, a natural adhesive, and its fibers add strength, creating a mixture that will dry hard and impenetrable. You mix it all by hand, often with your bare feet, feeling the cool, squelching mud between your toes, the scratch of straw, the surprisingly warm, earthy smell of the dung. It's a primal, messy process. You scoop up great handfuls of this thick, gloopy concoction, the daub, and begin to plaster it onto the wattle frame. You push it deep into every crevice, every gap, every hairline fracture where the wind has dared to intrude. You work methodically, your hands growing numb from the cold mud, your back aching from the endless bending and reaching. The sound is a soft, rhythmic squelch, a wet slapping as the mud adheres, layer by layer, to the rough branches. You're not just patching a wall, you're building a barrier, brick by muddy brick, against the very breath of winter itself. The goal is absolute airtightness. No sliver of light should betray a gap. No wisp of wind should be able to snake its way through. You can almost feel the house breathing a sigh of relief as each section is sealed. The ambient temperature inside subtly, almost imperceptibly, beginning to rise, held captive by your crude but effective engineering. The smell for a while is intensely earthy, a rich, damp aroma of soil and straw and animal, but it's a smell of safety, of enclosure. It is the scent of survival. And then there is the roof. Your roof, a thick cap of thatch, usually made from reeds or straw, is already substantial. But for winter, it needs more. It needs to be a blanket, a thermal shield, even more than just a roof. You climb onto its steep slopes, carefully, your feet finding purchase on the rough bundles. More straw, more reeds are meticulously laid, layer upon layer, secured with ropes and pegs. You're adding an extra foot, sometimes two, of dense, dry insulation. Each bundle is pressed down, woven in, creating an almost impenetrable barrier. The sound of the wind, which once might have whistled through the eaves, is now a dull, distant roar, muffled by the sheer density of your work. From the inside, once the daub dries and the thatch is reinforced, your hut transforms. The light becomes dimmer, filtered through the small, high openings that serve as rudimentary windows, often just shutters that are now firmly closed. The air grows heavy, thick with the scent of dried mud, hay, and the faint, lingering odor of the animals you'll soon bring inside. It's a claustrophobic space, certainly. The walls feel closer, the ceiling lower, but there's a profound sense of security in this enclosure. Outside, the world might be turning into a frozen, howling wasteland. But inside your fortress of mud and straw, you've created a pocket of relative stillness. A fragile, hard-won sanctuary where you hope to ride out the storm. This isn't just a home anymore. It is a meticulously crafted survival chamber, a testament to the relentless human will to simply exist. You've prepared your bunker, and now you wait. The fortress is sealed, the walls thick, the roof a dense blanket. But even with every crack plugged and every seam reinforced, the bitter cold of a medieval winter is relentless. It seeps through the earth floor, radiates from the stone hearth, and chills the very air you breathe. A small fire, burning precious, often damp wood or peat, offers some warmth, but it is a fickle friend demanding constant attention and consuming valuable fuel. For you, the medieval peasant, there is a far more reliable, if somewhat less fragrant, heating system at your disposal, your livestock. This is a stark, brutal truth of winter survival. Your animals are not just sources of food or labor, they are living, breathing radiators. So, as the temperatures plummet and the ground hardens, you don't just shelter your precious cow, your handful of sheep, or your grunting pigs in a separate barn. No, you bring them inside, right into your home, into the very same single room where your family eats, sleeps, and lives. Imagine the scene. The small, dim hut, already thick with the scent of dried mud and straw from your earlier efforts. Now, into this confined space, you lead your cow, Bessie, her large, warm body exhaling great clouds of steamy breath into the frigid air. Her hooves clatter softly on the packed earth floor, a low moo rumbling in her chest. The sheep follow, their woolly bodies brushing against your legs, their nervous bleats adding to the symphony of the impending winter. The pigs, perhaps a sow and her piglets, are coaxed into a corner, their snorts and grunts a constant background murmur. The immediate effect is palpable. Their sheer mass, their constant metabolic processes, generate an astonishing amount of heat. A single cow can produce as much warmth as a small stove. Multiply that by several animals, and suddenly the air inside your hut, which was hovering precariously close to freezing, inches upwards. It's not comfortable, not by any stretch of the imagination. But it's above zero. It's the difference between frostbite and merely being miserably cold. It's the difference between life and death. The sensory experience of this living heat source is overwhelming. The air becomes thick, heavy with the combined exhalations of humans and beasts. There is the pervasive, inescapable smell of animal. A warm, musky, earthy scent mixed with the pungent odor of dung and urine. You learn to ignore it, to filter it out, because it is the smell of survival. You hear the rhythmic, heavy breathing of the cow, the soft snuffling of the pigs, the occasional rustle of a sheep shifting its weight. Sometimes a nervous whimper from a lamb, or a contented sigh from Bessie as she settles down on her bed of straw. These sounds, far from being a nuisance, become a comforting backdrop, a constant reminder that the life-giving warmth is present, working its quiet magic. You arrange straw and hay for the animals to lie on, creating a soft, insulating layer that also absorbs some of the moisture and waste. You learn to navigate around their sprawling bodies in the dim light, careful not to startle them, knowing that their comfort directly translates to your warmth. The children, perhaps initially wary, quickly learn to treat the animals as part of the family, leaning against a warm flank for comfort, finding solace in the steady beat of a large animal's heart. This isn't a choice born of sentimentality. It's a calculated, desperate strategy. Every degree above freezing is a victory. Every bit of animal heat conserved means less precious firewood burned, less time spent out in the brutal cold gathering fuel. It's a testament to the raw, unvarnished pragmatism of medieval life. You share your meager space, your precious air, with creatures who are both your dependents and your saviors. The discomfort, the smell, the constant presence of their animal bodies, these are minor prices to pay for the priceless gift of warmth, for the sheer, brutal fact of staying alive. In the heart of your mud and straw fortress, with the wind howling its death song outside, the collective body heat of your family and your animals forms a fragile, but vital bubble of existence. You are a living, breathing, communal furnace, and it is this shared warmth that will carry you through the longest, darkest nights. With the hut sealed and the animals brought in, a new, equally brutal reality sets in. Personal hygiene, as you know it, ceases to exist. The very notion of a warm bath, even a quick splash with cold water, becomes not just an inconvenience but a genuine threat to your life. In the medieval winter, cleanliness is not next to godliness. It is next to hypothermia. Forget the concept of daily washing. Forget weekly baths. For months, from the first deep frost until the spring thaw, you will not truly bathe. The reasons are numerous and terrifyingly practical. First, water is a precious commodity. Hauling it from a frozen well or river is an arduous, bone-chilling task. Heating it over an open fire consumes valuable fuel that is better used for cooking and keeping the communal space above freezing. But more fundamentally, the act of bathing itself is dangerous. Stripping off your heavy insulating clothes, even for a moment, exposes your skin to the frigid air, causing a rapid loss of precious body heat. Your ancestors believed that bathing opened the pores, allowing bad air or humors to enter the body, making you susceptible to illness. In a time when illness was often a death sentence, this belief, though scientifically unsound, served as a powerful deterrent. The risk they instinctively knew was too high. So, you embrace the art of not bathing, Your skin naturally begins to accumulate a layer of grime, sweat, and natural oils. This isn't just unpleasant, it is functional. This buildup, combined with the layers of rough wool and linen you wear, forms a surprisingly effective, albeit repulsive, additional layer of insulation. It is a natural, albeit involuntary, protective coating, a greasy shield against the biting cold. Your body, in its own crude way, adapts, creating its own personal, albeit filthy, microclimate. The feeling is one of constant stickiness and grubbiness. Your hair, unwashed and uncombed for weeks, perhaps months, becomes matted and heavy, a tangled mass that seems to absorb all the dust and smoke from the hut. It might feel stiff, almost like a helmet, and the occasional scratch to your scalp might dislodge flakes of dry skin, or even, quite probably, a persistent louse. You become intimately familiar with the sensation of your own body's natural oils, a slick film on your skin that paradoxically offers a strange sense of security. It is not a pleasant feeling, certainly not. You might rub your fingers over your forearms and feel the slight tackiness, a thin, almost imperceptible film that coats everything. This isn't just surface dirt. It is an ingrained part of your being, a second skin of survival. The smell, of course, is a potent cocktail. The warm, musky scent of unwashed human bodies mingles with the pervasive aroma of the animals, the stale smoke from the fire, and the damp earth of the floor. It's a smell that becomes so constant, so utterly part of your existence, that your senses eventually tune it out. You breathe it in, you live in it, and it simply becomes the smell of winter, the smell of survival. It's a collective scent, a signature of the entire household, human and animal alike, all contributing to this unique olfactory tapestry of the medieval winter hut. When you occasionally step outside for a brief, urgent task, the crisp, clean, freezing air hits you, momentarily shocking your nostrils, only for the familiar dense aroma of your home to envelop you again as you duck back inside. You learn to manage what little hygiene you can. Perhaps a quick, dry rub with a coarse cloth to remove some surface dirt, or a vigorous scratch to relieve an itch. Your hands perpetually grimy from work and the close proximity to animals might be wiped on your tunic. Your teeth, if you bother with them at all, might be cleaned with a piece of rough cloth or a twig, though the concept of oral hygiene is as alien as central heating. Your fingernails, thick with earth and grime, are beyond mere cleaning. They are tools hardened by necessity. The occasional splash of cold water on your face, if you can bear it, is less for cleanliness and more for a jarring jolt of awareness, a brief battle against the encroaching lethargy of the long dark days. This enforced lack of cleanliness is a humbling experience. It strips away any pretense of personal comfort or aesthetic concern. It reduces existence to its most basic, most animalistic form. You, your family, and your animals are all united in this shared state of grime, a communal embrace of the necessary filth required to simply stay warm, to simply stay alive. When you finally emerge in the spring, your skin will be pale beneath layers of ingrained dirt, your hair matted and heavy, and the first true bath, if it ever happens, will be a shock to a system that has spent months in this state of protective, unwashed hibernation. But for now, in the heart of winter, the art of not bathing is a practiced essential skill, a crucial piece of the brutal puzzle of medieval peasant survival. The first frost bit deep, But the true battle began when the ground froze solid and the snow started its relentless descent inside your wattle. And Daub hut, you'd done your best to seal yourself off from the world, but the cold had always found a way. Now, as the days shorten and the sun becomes a pale, indifferent eye in the sky, your life revolves around the hearth, and specifically the pot that hangs perpetually above its low, smoldering fire. This is the heart of your winter survival, the infinite stew, or pottage as it is known. It began sometime in late autumn, a humble concoction of whatever was left even. Some dried peas, a handful of barley, a few root vegetables salvaged from the last harvest. Since then, it has never truly stopped simmering. The iron pot itself is a testament to time and necessity. Its exterior is a crust of ancient soot and grease, the metal itself almost black with age and constant heat. Inside, the walls are stained dark, a testament to countless meals, never truly scrubbed clean, only scraped. When you lean over it, a complex aroma rises, a heavy, earthy scent. It's a base note of stale smoke and damp ash, layered with the deep, fermenting smell of old vegetables, the slightly sour tang of grains, and something else, something vaguely metallic from the iron itself. There's a faint, underlying char, a ghost of burnt offerings from the bottom of the pot, a flavor that has seeped into every molecule of every meal for weeks, perhaps months. You approach the pot with a heavy wooden ladle worn smooth by generations of hands. The pottage within is not a light, inviting soup. It is thick, viscous, a dense, gray-brown mass that resists the ladle's entry. As you plunge the spoon in, you hear a soft, sloshing sound, a heavy, wet gurgle as the thick liquid parts. The texture is uneven. Some parts are a homogeneous sludge, while others hide lumps of softened, almost disintegrated vegetables, or the firmer chew of a bean that has stubbornly held its shape. Each day, new ingredients are added, not according to a recipe, but according to what little you have. A handful of dried field peas, hard as pebbles, which will soften over hours, absorbing the communal flavor. A scoop of barley or rye grains, adding a grittier texture. Perhaps a few foraged nettles, if the snow briefly receded enough to find them, wilting quickly into the murky depths. Sometimes, if the harvest was truly poor, you might even add tree bark powder, ground from the inner bark of certain trees, not for flavor, but for a desperate kind of bulk, a fiber that will trick your stomach into feeling less empty. However briefly, the taste is predictably bland. It's the taste of sustenance, not pleasure. Earthy, a little starchy, vaguely vegetal, with that persistent, subtle undertone of char and smoke. It warms you from the inside, a slow, heavy heat that spreads through your belly, but it leaves no lingering sweetness or spice. It is fuel, pure and unadulterated, designed solely to keep the spark of life burning in the deep, unyielding cold. The bread that accompanies this pottage is equally stark. It is a hunk of dark, heavy bread, made from coarse rye or barley flour, often mixed with sawdust, ground acorns, or whatever other fillers could be found to stretch the precious grain. It is dense, almost brick, like with a crust so hard it could chip a tooth. You tear off a piece, feeling the rough texture against your fingers, the faint smell of yeast and earth. It is chewed slowly, deliberately, each mouthful a demanding exercise for your jaw, providing a much-needed counterpoint to the soft, yielding pottage. You dunk it into the stew, letting it soak up some of the warmth and moisture, making it slightly more palatable. There is no variety here, no choice. Breakfast, midday meal, evening meal. It is always the pottage. It is the steady, unyielding rhythm of winter survival, a constant presence, a silent promise that for today you will not starve. The pot continues its low, eternal simmer, a living entity in your small, cold home, its ceaseless warmth and steam a small defiance against the overwhelming chill outside. You eat in silence, listening to the soft sounds of your family, the occasional scrape of a spoon against a wooden bowl, the low crackle of the fire, the distant, mournful howl of the wind outside, a constant reminder of the world you've walled yourself off from. As the pottage settles in your stomach, a heavy, comforting weight, you turn your thoughts to the night. Sleep is not a solitary affair in your small, single-room dwelling. It is a communal act, a shared endeavor in the fight against the cold. Your bed, if one can call it that, is a large raised platform, or simply an area on the floor, covered with a thick layer of straw, a paliacene. This straw mattress is not soft and yielding. It rustles and crunches under your weight, a constant, dry whisper every time you shift. It smells of dried grasses, dust, and the faint, persistent aroma of the animals that share your living space. Tonight, as every night, the entire family will pile onto this single large bed. Perhaps even a weary traveler seeking shelter from the bitter winds or a distant relative will join the huddle. There is no concept of personal space here, no luxury of individual comfort. Survival dictates proximity. This practice, known as bundling, is not merely a custom. It is a vital, non-negotiable strategy for generating and conserving warmth. You lie down, feeling the scratchy, uneven texture of the straw through your rough clothes. The linen sheets, if you are fortunate enough to possess them, are coarse and thin, providing little warmth on their own but serving as a barrier against the prickling straw. Your youngest children are placed in the very center, tiny, vulnerable bodies that lose heat quickly. Around them, the elders whose blood runs thin and whose bones ache with the cold are positioned next to the children, benefiting from the concentrated warmth. You, as a strong adult, take your place on the outer edges, your body a living shield against the creeping chill that permeates the very walls of your hut. The arrangement is tight, intimate. Bodies press against bodies, limbs intertwine, and the collective heat of several human forms slowly begins to build, creating a small breathing microclimate within the frigid room. You feel the warmth radiating from your spouse's back, the comforting weight of a child's leg thrown over yours. The air immediately surrounding you warms, becoming thick with the scent of human breath, the faint, musky smell of unwashed bodies, and the lingering odor of the wood smoke and the animals that share your home. In the profound darkness of the hut, with only the embers of the fire casting a faint, dancing glow, your other senses become heightened. You hear the deep, rhythmic breathing of your family, a chorus of sighs and soft snores, the rustling of the straw as someone shifts, the faint creak of the wooden frame, if there is one. Outside, the wind continues its relentless assault, a low moan that seeps through the mud, plastered walls, a constant reminder of the deadly cold just beyond your thin barrier. But here, in this tight, breathing bundle of humanity, there is a sense of security, a primal comfort in the shared struggle. Sleep comes slowly, a gradual surrender to the warmth and the exhaustion of the day. You drift, aware of the gentle pressure of bodies around you, the shared warmth, a tangible thing against your skin. It is not always comfortable. Sometimes a child kicks, or an elbow digs into your side. But these minor discomforts are insignificant compared to the alternative, the biting, deadly cold that would surely claim you if you were alone. This communal bed is a living furnace, a testament to the power of human connection in the face of nature's harshest trials. It is a place where individual identities blur, where everyone becomes part of a larger breathing organism, all working together unconsciously to simply survive the long, dark, and deadly night. The warmth of another human body is not a luxury. It is a lifeline, a silent, shared promise of another morning. As you awaken, stiff and aching, the first thing you notice is the cold that has seeped into your bones despite the communal warmth. The air, thick with the scent of bodies and smoke, is still frigid. But you are alive. This is thanks, in no small part, to the layers of clothing you are still wearing, and have been wearing for weeks, perhaps months. Your wardrobe is not a matter of choice or fashion. It is a second skin, a strategic defense against the constant, insidious chill. For a medieval peasant, clothing is not changed daily or even weekly. It is worn continuously until it literally falls apart, or until the blessed warmth of spring allows for a rare ritualistic washing. You sleep in your clothes, you work in your clothes, you eat in your clothes. They are your constant companions, a heavy bristly shell. The primary material is wool, coarse, undyed, and often scratchy. It is the miracle fiber of the medieval winter. Unlike linen, which loses its insulating properties when damp, wool retains a remarkable amount of warmth, even when wet. This is crucial when you are constantly exposed to dampness from melted snow, morning dew, or the pervasive humidity within your smoke-filled hut. Your innermost layer might be a simple linen shift or tunic, but over that you pile on layers of wool, a longer wool tunic, perhaps a short cloak, and for men wool breeches or hose. Women wear long wool dresses, often with an apron and a thick wool cloak. When you move, the rough wool chafes against your skin, a constant, low-level irritation. The fabric is stiff, not soft and yielding, and it smells of accumulated body odor, wood smoke, damp earth, and the faint musky scent of animals. These smells are not unpleasant in the context of survival. They are simply the smell of life, of endurance. The weight of the layers is considerable, a constant pressure on your shoulders and limbs, making every movement feel a little heavier, a little more deliberate. Your hands and feet are particularly vulnerable to the cold, and here you employ some of the most basic yet essential tricks of winter survival. Your boots are crude, often made of hardened leather, but they offer little insulation on their own. To combat the biting cold that seeps up from the frozen ground, you stuff them with dry straw or hay. This creates a thick, insulating layer, a soft, rustling buffer between your feet and the icy leather. You feel the dry, brittle stalks against your toes, the faint smell of dried grass rising with every step. It's a temporary measure, as the straw compacts and dampens, requiring frequent replacement. But it makes the difference between merely cold feet and agonizing, frostbitten ones. For your hands, which are constantly exposed to the elements during chores, a different strategy is employed. Animal fat, rendered from a pig or a sheep, is a precious commodity. You might rub a thick layer of this greasy tallow onto your hands and feet before venturing out into the biting wind. The grease creates a protective barrier, a slick, shiny film that repels moisture and helps to lock in your body's natural heat. You feel its thick, slightly sticky texture, the faint, savory scent of rendered animal fat clinging to your skin. It's not pleasant, but it's effective, offering a crucial defense against the painful cracks and chilblains that are the common lot of those who face the medieval winter. Head coverings are also essential. A simple wool coif or a tightly wrapped piece of cloth protects your ears and scalp, areas where significant body heat can be lost. You pull it tight, feeling the rough wool against your temples, the way it muffles the sounds of the wind, creating a small, quiet world around your head. Over the weeks and months, your clothes become an extension of your body, a hardened, grimy shell. They are stiff with dirt, sweat, and smoke in their color. Originally a drab gray or brown, is now a uniform, indeterminate shade of earth. Lice and fleas are an inevitable companion, tiny, persistent irritants that burrow into the wool and onto your skin. You scratch at them, a constant, unconscious gesture, but there is little to be done until spring brings the opportunity for a thorough delousing and washing. This heavy, unwashed, and constantly worn clothing is not just fabric. It is a statement of defiance. Each layer, each patch, each mended tear is a testament to resilience. It is the skin you grow to survive the winter. A heavy, unyielding shield against the omnipresent cold. A silent, scratchy promise that you will endure. The sun, a fleeting memory, dips below the horizon, and with it, the last vestiges of true light vanish from your world. The long winter nights are not just cold, they are a profound, suffocating darkness. A darkness that presses in, thick and absolute, a tangible presence that shrinks your small, smoky hut even further. You know the exact hour the sun sets, not by a clock, but by the subtle shift in the air, the way the shadows deepen and merge, swallowing the familiar shapes of your home. Candles, those delicate beacons of beeswax or tallow, are luxuries beyond your wildest dreams. They belong to the lords and ladies, to the churches, to those who can afford such extravagant consumption of precious resources. For you, a peasant, such an item is a fantasy, a whisper of a different life. Your reality is far grittier, far dimmer. Your source of light, if you can even call it that, is the rushlight. Imagine a simple reed plucked from the marshland in the warmer months, dried and then carefully, painstakingly dipped into rendered animal fat fund, often tallow from a sheep or a pig. This is your winter lamp. You hold it, perhaps in a simple iron clip, or sometimes just in your hand, its slender form a testament to ingenuity born of necessity. When you light a rushlight, it doesn't banish the darkness. It merely pushes it back a few grudging inches. The flame is a tiny, struggling thing, a nervous flicker that casts more shadow than illumination. It dances erratically, making the familiar corners of your hut appear alien and menacing. The light is barely enough to see the faces of your family huddled around the hearth, their features softened and distorted by the unreliable glow. It turns the rough plaster walls into a canvas of shifting, ghostly shapes, making your mind play tricks in the vast, consuming gloom. The scent of a rushlight is unforgettable, and not in a pleasant way. It's the acrid, heavy smell of burning animal fat, a greasy, smoky odor that hangs in the air, mingling with the ever-present scent of wood smoke and damp earth. It coats the inside of your nostrils, leaving a faint, metallic taste on your tongue. And with that smell comes the smoke. Not the clean, woody smoke of a well-ventilated fire, but a dense black plume that rises from the tiny wick, adding to the pervasive haze that already fills your home. You learn to live by the rhythm of this meager light. The rushlight is not for reading, for sewing, or for any task requiring precision. Its purpose is purely existential, to acknowledge that the sun has truly gone, to remind you that you are not entirely swallowed by the night. You might use it to stir the pottage, to check on a sleeping child, or to navigate the treacherous path to the communal bucket in the corner. But its life is short, its fuel precious. Most of the time you choose darkness. It is a conscious decision, a sacrifice made for survival. As the rushlight dwindles, sputtering its last, you let it go. The darkness rushes back in, complete and absolute. You sit in silence in the profound blackness, listening to the wind howl outside, the soft breathing of your family, the occasional crackle of the embers in the hearth. Your other senses sharpen, compensating for the lack of sight. You feel the cold seeping through the walls, hear the tiny rustlings of mice in the thatch, smell the stale air, thick with human and animal presence. This sensory deprivation becomes a part of your winter existence. Your eyes, accustomed to the dimness, struggle to adjust even to the faint light of dawn. Your mind, left without visual input, drifts into a hazy dreamlike state, even when you are awake. The hours stretch out, an endless, formless expanse of night punctuated only by the brief, smoky flicker of a rushlight, a fragile defiance against the encroaching void. It is a quiet, internal world you inhabit, a world where the absence of light defines so much of your experience, forcing you into a primal state of being, where the darkness itself becomes a heavy, soft blanket, both comforting and isolating. The warmth of the fire is a blessing, a lifeline against the relentless cold that gnaws at the very bones of your existence. But this blessing comes with a heavy price, a constant, suffocating companion that permeates every breath you take: smoke. Your home, a humble dwelling of Wattle and Daub, offers no luxury of a chimney. There is no ingenious flue to channel the acrid fumes upwards and away, no elegant brickwork to guide the smoke out into the crisp winter air. Instead, your fire pit, the very heart of your survival, sits directly on the earth floor, typically in the center of your single room. When you feed the fire, whether with precious scraps of scavenged wood or dried dung, the smoke billows upwards, a thick gray cloud that has nowhere to go but to fill the upper reaches of your living space. It rises swirling and eddying until it meets the low thatched roof. Some of it, perhaps, will eventually find its way out through the smoke hole, a crude opening in the roof, often just a gap or a small vent that is frequently blocked to prevent heat loss. But most of it lingers, suspended, creating a perpetually hazy atmosphere that stings and chokes. From the moment the fire is lit in the morning until the last embers die down at night, you are living in a fog. The air is thick, pungent with the smell of wood smoke, partially burnt fuel, and the faint, underlying scent of damp straw and packed earth. It is a smell that clings to your clothes, your hair, your skin, becoming an indelible part of your very being. The immediate consequence of this constant smoke inhalation is a perpetual, hacking cough. It rattles in your chest, a dry, rasping sound that is as common as the sound of the wind outside. Every member of your family coughs, from the youngest child to the oldest elder. It is an involuntary reflex, an attempt by your body to expel the irritating particles that assault your lungs with every shallow breath. Your throat feels perpetually raw, as if you've swallowed embers, and a persistent, metallic taste of charcoal often lingers on your tongue. But it's your eyes that bear the brunt of the smoke's assault. They are perpetually red-rimmed, swollen, and watery. The smoke irritates the delicate membranes, causing a constant, involuntary flow of tears. Your vision is often blurred, obscured by the haze in the air and the irritation in your eyes. You learn to blink frequently, to rub your eyes with the back of your hand, a futile attempt to alleviate the stinging, burning sensation. It is a dull, persistent ache behind your eyelids, a constant reminder of the air you breathe. You find yourself instinctively stooping or even crawling when moving through the hut, especially if the smoke is particularly dense. The air closest to the floor, even if colder, is marginally clearer, less choked with the acrid fumes. Your children, small and close to the ground, might suffer less from the immediate irritation, but the long-term effects are insidious, silently working their damage on everyone's respiratory systems. This smoke is not just an inconvenience, it is a slow poison. It means that throughout the long, dark winter months, your lungs are under siege. You wake up with a tightness in your chest, and the first few breaths of the morning are often accompanied by another round of coughing. The simple act of breathing, which should be effortless, becomes a conscious effort, a struggle against the invisible enemy that keeps you warm but also slowly suffocates you. Sometimes, when the wind changes or the fire is particularly smoky, the room becomes almost unbearable. Your eyes stream uncontrollably, your throat tightens, and a wave of nausea might overcome you. You might have to step outside for a few moments, even into the biting cold, just to gasp for a lungful of clean, albeit frigid, air. The contrast is stark, the icy clarity of the outside world against the warm, but toxic embrace of your home. It's a trade-off you make every single day, a constant negotiation between the threat of freezing to death and the slow, insidious damage of the smoke that keeps you alive. The smoke stains everything. The walls are blackened. The thatched roof above is coated in a thick layer of soot. Your clothes, your hair, even your skin, and carry the indelible mark of this constant exposure. You are, quite literally, steeped in the smoke of your own survival, a living testament to the brutal compromises demanded by a medieval winter. It is a profound irony. The very source of your comfort is also a source of your suffering, a hazy veil that both warms and slowly blinds you. As the winter deepens and the days shrink to mere slivers of gray light, a profound shift occurs within you and your community. It's a transformation born not of choice, but of absolute necessity, a psychological hibernation. With food scarce, warmth a constant battle, and physical labor outside becoming increasingly perilous or impossible, the most effective way to conserve the precious meager calories you consume is to simply do less, to move less, to think less, to be less. The rhythm of your life slows to an almost imperceptible crawl. Gone are the bustling activities of harvest, the long days in the fields, the energetic chatter of the village square. In their place is a pervasive stillness, a quietude broken only by the howl of the wind, the crackle of the fire, and the soft, shallow breaths of your family. You spend hours, sometimes entire days, in a state of semi-inactivity, huddled close to the fire, your body conserving every ounce of warmth and energy. Boredom, as a concept, barely exists in this context. There is no leisure time to fill, no entertainment to seek out. Your mind, too, enters a kind of low-power mode. Thoughts become slower, less urgent. You might stare blankly into the embers, watching the tiny sparks dance and die. Your mind a hazy blank slate. Conversations are minimal, often whispered, focused on immediate needs. Is there enough fuel? Are the children warm? When will the snow stop? Sleep becomes a refuge, a way to pass the interminable hours of darkness and cold. You sleep more deeper, longer than in any other season. It's not just the physical exhaustion from the constant struggle against the elements. It's a biological imperative. Your body, sensing the scarcity, urges you into prolonged periods of rest, mimicking the natural world around you. You might wake only to tend the fire, to eat a meager portion of pottage, or to relieve yourself before sinking back into the heavy embrace of sleep. This extended sleep isn't always restful in the modern sense. It's often punctuated by the cold, by the discomfort of the straw mattress, by the persistent coughs of your family. But it serves its purpose to keep you still, to keep your metabolism low, to stretch the meager resources of your body. You wake feeling not refreshed, but often groggy, disoriented, as if surfacing from a deep, dreamless dive. The world outside your hut is a maelstrom of wind and snow, a symphony of nature's raw power, but inside there is a profound, almost eerie silence. The familiar sounds of the village, the distant bleating of sheep, the shouts of children, the clatter of tools are muffled or entirely absent. This dead quiet amplifies the internal stillness, reinforcing the sense of being cocooned, isolated from the vibrant life of warmer seasons. Time itself seems to lose its meaning. Days bleed into nights, weeks into months. The sun rises and sets, but its passage is marked less by activity and more by the subtle changes in the intensity of the cold, the depth of the snow, the dwindling stores of food. Your sense of purpose narrows to the immediate, the fundamental: warmth, food, survival. The future is a distant, abstract concept, overshadowed by the relentless demands of the present. You move with a deliberate slowness, a measured pace that conserves every iota of energy. Each action, from lifting a heavy pot to stirring the pottage, is performed with conscious effort, without haste. This isn't laziness. It is a finely tuned survival mechanism. Any unnecessary movement is a luxury you cannot afford, a drain on your rapidly depleting internal reserves. This psychological hibernation creates a hazy, almost dreamlike state of existence. You are present, yet not fully engaged. Your senses are dulled by the smoke, the cold, the monotony. The world becomes a blurred canvas of muted colors and faint sounds. It is a state of being that allows you to endure the unbearable, to weather the storm within the confines of your mind and body, waiting, patiently, for the distant promise of spring. It is a testament to the human spirit's remarkable ability to adapt, to quiet itself, to shrink its ambitions and desires to the bare minimum required for existence, all in the desperate hope of seeing another dawn. The simple act of doing nothing becomes a profound act of survival. The sun has long been a distant memory, a pale, watery disk that grudgingly offered a few hours of weak light before retreating again. Now, deep in the heart of winter, your world has shrunk to the confines of your smoky, mud, and straw dwelling. But even within this tiny fortress, the struggle for survival continues, not just against the biting cold, but against the insidious threat of hunger and disease, often brought on by the very food meant to sustain you. Consider the meat, if you were lucky enough to have any to preserve. Perhaps a pig slaughtered in autumn, its flesh meticulously salted and smoked, hanging from the rafters or stored in a cool, dark corner of your hut or a communal cellar. You remember the process well, the careful rubbing of coarse salt into every crevice, the slow, lingering smoke from a smoldering fire permeating the fibers, turning the meat a deep, dark hue, locking out the air, locking in a semblance of freshness. This wasn't a culinary art for flavor. It was a desperate science of preservation, a gamble against the inevitable. Now, months later, you reach for a slab of this precious protein. Your fingers, stiff from the cold and the endless chores, trace the hard, leathery surface. It's dense, almost petrified, a far cry from the tender cuts you might dream of. But as you bring it closer, a faint, unsettling odor might prickle your nostrils. A hint of something sour, something beyond the intended smoky tang. Perhaps a greenish-gray film has begun to bloom on a forgotten corner, or a soft spot yields slightly under your thumb. What do? Discard it. The thought is unthinkable. Every calorie, every morsel is a lifeline. So, you take out your blunt knife, the same one you use for cutting firewood and tending to your animals, and you meticulously, carefully carve away the offending section. You trim around the discoloration, scrape away the suspicious growth. Your senses on high alert. You might hold it to the weak light of the rushlight, squinting, trying to determine if enough of the decay has been removed. It's a gamble, a silent negotiation with nature's relentless march of decomposition. You tell yourself it's fine. It has to be fine. The remaining piece, though diminished, is still a victory. You hack off a chunk, tough and unyielding. The sound it makes as your knife saws through it is a dry, grating whisper like bone against wood. When you finally get a piece into your mouth, the salt hits you first. A shocking, overwhelming blast that immediately dries out your tongue and the roof of your mouth. It is not just salty, it is aggressively salty, designed to kill bacteria, not to please the palate. You chew and chew and chew. It is like gnawing on hardened leather, each muscle in your jaw protesting with dull aches. The texture is fibrous, dense, sometimes with a grainy quality from the salt itself. The flavor, beneath the salt, is gamey, smoky, and often has a subtle, almost metallic undertone from the long preservation. This intense saltiness, while a savior for the meat, becomes a torment for you. Your body, already depleted, cries out for water. But water, too, is a precious commodity in the depths of winter. The rivers and streams are frozen solid, covered by a thick carapace of ice and snow. The well, if you have access to one, might be equally intractable, its bucket frozen to the rope, the water within a solid block. So, you rely on melted snow and ice. You bring in handfuls of pristine white snow or chunks of ice chipped from the trough outside and place them in a pot over your small, carefully tended fire. The snow hisses and sighs as it slowly transforms into water, a precious, life-giving liquid. But this process is slow, fuel-intensive, and the resulting water is often barely above freezing, sending a shock through your system when you drink it. Sometimes you might even find yourself eating the snow directly, the cold burning your throat, offering only temporary, unsatisfying relief to your parched mouth. The cellar, where some of your root vegetables and other preserved goods might be stored, holds its own distinct aroma. A damp, earthy smell, thick with the scent of stored potatoes, turnips, and the subtle, sometimes alarming perfume of mold. It's a smell of life and decay intertwined, a constant reminder of the thin line between sustenance and sickness. You move through it carefully, your eyes scanning for signs of spoilage, your heart sinking with each discovery of a shriveled turnip or a potato softened by rot. Each loss is a direct assault on your chances of seeing spring. The act of eating in winter is not a pleasure, but a ritual of desperate necessity. A constant battle against the forces of time and nature that conspire to take your very breath away. The days continue to shorten, then slowly, almost imperceptibly, begin to stretch out again. The sun gains a fraction of a degree of warmth, a minute more of light each day. But this subtle shift, this promise of spring, brings with it not relief, but a new, more acute terror. This is the time of the hunger gap, a period that stretches from late winter into early spring, when the last of the autumn's harvest has been consumed, and the new crops are still only a dream beneath the frozen earth. Your storage barrels, which once seemed to hold a reassuring, if meager, bounty, are now hollow echoes of their former selves. You run your hand along the rough wood of the grain chest, feeling only dust and splinters. The sacks where you kept dried peas and beans are limp and empty. The shelves where you carefully stacked your salted meat are bare, save for a few stubborn scraps that cling to the wood, too small or too tough to bother with. This isn't the sudden, dramatic hunger of a siege or a famine, though those too were tragically common. This is a slow, insidious gnawing, a chronic ache that becomes a constant companion. Your stomach, which has long since learned to contract and expand with the meager offerings, now feels like a hollow pit, a perpetual emptiness that no amount of water can truly fill. The pangs are not always sharp. Sometimes they are dull, a persistent background hum of deprivation that drains your energy and dulls your senses. You wake with it, a familiar tightness in your gut. You live with it through the long, inactive hours of the day. You try to sleep it away at night, but it often keeps you restless, your mind replaying memories of food, real or imagined. Your body, in its desperate wisdom, begins to cannibalize itself. Your muscles, already lean from a lifetime of labor, start to waste away. Your bones feel more prominent beneath your thin skin. Your movements become slower, more deliberate, each step an effort to conserve precious, dwindling calories. The search for sustenance becomes a daily, desperate quest. You venture out despite the lingering chill, your eyes scanning the barren landscape with a new intensity. You dig through the still, frozen ground at the edge of the forest, hoping to unearth a forgotten patch of wild onions or a resilient root. You examine the trees, searching for bark that might be peeled, boiled, and chewed into some semblance of food, however bitter or indigestible. You know the stories, the desperate tales of eating anything to survive. Acorns often bitter and requiring extensive processing. Moss, even the tough, leathery straps of old boots, boiled until they softened enough to chew, offering nothing but a false sense of fullness. Your neighbors, your family, everyone around you carries the same gaunt look, the same shadow in their eyes. There are no secrets in hunger. You see it in the way a child's ribs protrude, in the way an old woman's hands tremble as she clutches a small foraged berry. The shared suffering is a grim bond, a silent understanding that everyone is teetering on the edge. You might share a tiny, precious handful of dried herbs or a few meager grains, knowing that by doing so, you are diminishing your own chances. But the instinct for community, for shared survival, is as strong as the gnawing in your belly. Each morning brings with it a fresh wave of dread, the fear of February stretching into March. Will today be the day the last of the pottage runs out? Will today be the day you find nothing at all? The world outside feels indifferent to your suffering, the sky a cold, gray canvas, the earth still locked in its icy embrace. You chew on a piece of tough, dry bread, made from whatever meager flour remains, perhaps mixed with sawdust or ground husks, and imagine the taste of fresh green shoots, the crunch of a new turnip, the warmth of a full belly. These are the dreams that sustain you, a fragile hope against the relentless tide of starvation, a silent prayer for the earth to awaken and offer its bounty once more. And then, one day, almost without you noticing, a change begins. It's not dramatic, not a sudden burst of warmth or a chorus of birdsong. It's far more subtle, a slow, grudging surrender of winter's grip. The air, though still cool, carries a different scent, 40 less of smoke and frost, more of damp earth, and something vaguely green. The snow, which once seemed an immutable blanket, begins to recede, not melting cleanly, but collapsing into a slushy gray. Brown mess. The world outside your hut transforms into a landscape of mud, thick, clinging, sucking mud. It squelches underfoot with every step, pulling at your worn boots, coating everything in a slick brown film. The paths become treacherous, the fields a quagmire. This isn't the romantic image of spring with delicate flowers and gentle breezes. This is the raw, unvarnished reality of the thaw, a season of struggle, of navigating the sticky, inescapable earth. You wade through it, your legs aching, your clothes splattered, but there's a flicker of something in your heart that wasn't there before. The days grow noticeably longer. The sun, though still hesitant, stays in the sky for more hours, casting a brighter, if still cool, light. You emerge from your smoky, confined dwelling, blinking in the unaccustomed brightness, your eyes accustomed to the dimness of rushlights and the haze of smoke, water profusely in the open air. Your lungs, used to the acrid sting of wood smoke, take in deep, grateful breaths of air that, while still carrying the scent of damp earth and animal, feels remarkably clean and fresh. You look around at the familiar, yet transformed landscape. The skeletal trees, which for months were stark silhouettes against a gray sky, now show the faintest blush of red or green in their topmost branches, a hesitant promise of leaves to come. The fields, once frozen and barren, are still mostly brown, but here and there a tiny, almost invisible sprout pushes its way through the mud, a defiant pinprick of green against the vastness of the earth. This is what all the brutal ways, all the desperate measures, all the endless endurance were for. This is the reward for the mud and straw fortress, for the shared body heat of animals, for the months without washing, for the endless pottage, for the crowded bed, for the layers of scratchy wool, for the flickering rushlights, for the blinding smoke, for the psychological hibernation, for the gnawing hunger, for the fear of February. It was all for this, another year, another chance. There's a profound weariness in your bones, a deep-seated exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fully erase. Your body carries the scars of winter, the chapped hands, the lingering cough, the dull aches in your joints, the faint, persistent hunger that still whispers in the background. But beneath that exhaustion, there is also a quiet, almost sacred sense of relief. You have made it. You have survived. As you stand there, perhaps leaning against the rough wooden post of your hut, feeling the faint warmth of the sun on your face, a profound stillness settles over you. The sounds of winter fiffing, the howling wind, the crackling fire, the restless shifting of animals stewing, are replaced by the soft drip of melting snow, the distant caw of a crow, the gentle squelch of mud. It's a quiet symphony of survival, a testament to the resilience of life. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the weariness wash over you, letting the quiet triumph settle deep within your spirit. The world feels vast and open again, full of possibilities, even if those possibilities are simply the hard work of planting and hoping for a good harvest. The ordeal is over for now. A long, dark night of winter has passed. Now, as the sounds of this ancient world gently fade, and the feeling of a long, hard-won rest settles upon you, allow yourself to drift. Let the quiet hum of survival, the steady rhythm of the seasons, lull you into a deep and peaceful sleep. You have endured. You have found your way through the darkness. Rest now, in the quiet certainty of your own resilience. Sleep deeply, knowing that the dawn will always come, no matter how long the night. Let your breath deepen, your body relax, and surrender to the embrace of a tranquil, dreamless slumber.